Hi, welcome to my podcast, Becoming a Cut Flower Grower. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm here to share my year of growing and selling cut flowers. I'll be giving you the lowdown on everything I'm doing and sharing all the highs and lows, the good times and the inevitable disasters, all in real time. Join me on my cut flower journey, starting right now. Well, hello and welcome to the episode. It is Tuesday, the 17th of June, 2025. In the evening, and I am back from my holiday. So if you were listening to the last episode, I said that I was going to have a holiday from the podcast. And what I really wanted to say but didn't was that I was actually going on holiday. And you're not supposed to tell people that you go on holiday in case they come around to your house and burgle it while you're away. So I had to kind of make it sound a bit vague, like I was just taking a break from the podcast, when what I really wanted to do was carry on doing the podcast while I was on holiday. But I didn't, and I'm back, and I didn't get burgled, so that's fine. So I went down to Cornwall for the week. Now, if you are listening outside of the UK, the Cornwall is in the very southwest part of the UK. It's very, very beautiful. And I popped down there for a week. And what I would say to anybody, even vaguely considering the possibility of taking a holiday in June, just don't do it. Don't do it. It was awful leaving everything. It was really, really hard. I shouldn't have done it with hindsight. It was a mistake to even think that I could go away for a week at the beginning of June, particularly as we still haven't had any rain. So, as you can imagine, things have not exactly flourished on the plot. Anyway, I'll come back to that in a second. But in part two of this episode, I'm going to talk to you about a flower grower that I met in Cornwall. I'll tell you all the details about that because it was really absolutely fascinating. And I'm so, so grateful that I got to do that. So, Cornwall, I was expecting it to be warm and sunny and have lots of lovely beaches, probably no phone signal, no shops. And the reality was that it was extremely wet and cold. All the beaches are rocky, and we had a perfect phone signal. So, you win some, you lose some. It rained practically every single day we were there. Some days, like torrential rain, mostly the days that we were driving, which made it really, really hard work. And it was hard to believe that it was so astonishingly wet there. And I have the weather app on my phone, and I was constantly looking to see what was happening at home. Bone dry, no rain, maybe the hint of a rain. Oh no, the clouds just blew over. I can't tell you how much rain we had in Cornwall, and how frustrating it is to know that you are somewhere where there's masses of rain and knowing at home that there was obviously nothing. And where I was staying, like, they don't even bother collecting the water. There were no water butts, no water storage devices, anything. So I was staying in a cottage on a farm, and they just had water pouring down from every gutter you can imagine and just draining away into the ground. And I kept looking out the windows going, I can't believe they're not collecting water. And then I thought, well, the water butt's going to be full in like 5 minutes. They can't possibly use it. And what's more, they don't need to because it's just raining all the time. Which explains why Cornwall is so beautifully lush and incredibly green. Everything's just like so over the top. It's amazing. So I guess the tricky part is keeping things warm. And they just put fleeces over things or protection, or they grow in polytunnels, whatever. So yeah, a little bit of a difference between what I was expecting. And I had been checking the weather app for where I was going. So I obviously packed based on what I thought it was pretty much going to be like based on the app. So I had 3 pairs of shorts. I even took some linen, some sandals. Absolutely ridiculous, totally redundant. I had multiple layers on most days. I had to borrow some socks from my other half. Just, yeah, not at all what I was expecting. And I've come home thinking, well, I was away for a week. I'm sure some things will have grown. Shockingly low amount of growth, a disappointingly low amount of growth, to be honest. So I guess all the things that I was rushing to put in before I went away have spent the week getting their roots down. So that kind of makes sense. And obviously we didn't have any rain, and that is what's stopping everybody growing. So at least the Nigella look very promising. They've actually budded up. So I'm very excited about those guys. But I've just seen some in Cornwall that are pretty much going over. They're pretty much finished, done and dusted. and mine are still thinking about it, but at least they've now got it on their minds, whereas before they've just been just sitting there doing nothing. Obviously, as you would expect, the perennials are doing absolutely fine. The achillea is about to flower. The agapanthus is budded up. What other perennials have I got? Oh, the one peony out of the five. I've got five baby peonies. One of the peonies had flowered, and I just saw the remains of it, and the foxgloves are still flowering away. So yeah, perennials doing brilliantly, as I always thought they would, and they are. And the annuals kind of just struggling along. Apart from the cornflowers, which are phenomenal. So this is my first batch of 3 batches, and the first batch are flowering their little socks off. So I've had 2 cuts from those already since I got back. And they're the most stunning blue and also a white. And I'm really, really proud of them. Some of the stems are super long, like 45 centimeters long, just absolutely amazing. Then there's some shorter ones, which will be nice for bud vases and stuff. But I'm really proud of them. And they've hardly had any care or attention. The only thing they got was that very elaborate string staking system that I put in place, which turns out to have been really handy because they are all completely upright and they have filled out nicely. Could have planted them closer together, so I'll know that for next year. Batch 2 of the cornflowers, they clearly all decided to just fall over the minute I got in the car. And then once they've got a kink in their stem, they've then gone upright. So I spent all of this morning trying to straighten them out and put some kind of support system in place for them. They're little monkeys, they really are, because they clearly can go upright if they want to. They've just fallen over and then gone up, which is not what I want. Batch 3 have gone in and they're doing fine. And the difference with batch 3 is that they're on the new beds that I've made after Nigel and his digger. And I've mulched that area with all the excess manure from the duck house. So the soil is lovely and moist underneath the mulch. Now, obviously, the surface of the mulch is dried out, but underneath that, the soil is fabulous. So that is why the new stuff that's gone out is not really struggling. In fact, the cosmos look almost positive. I'm almost excited about those. So it just goes to show the power of the mulch, just, stopping the surface layer drying out. The dahlias are, well, what are they doing? They're putting on a bit of growth, but I know the lack of water is a real problem for them. And I did think when I got back, maybe I should just dig half of them up and plant them in my own garden. And then at least I can water them off the mains for the summer, because I'd kind of pinned a lot of hope and expectation on the dahlias, and I can see that they're kind of getting let down a bit. The bug situation is quite interesting because there are absolutely no bugs up there. There's no aphids. There's just nothing. There's loads of ladybirds and ladybird larvae, but all the green fly, black fly, everything just vanished. Possibly too hot for them. I'm not sure. I had scraped them or brushed them, as you know, off my broad beans with a little brush, and I may have caused some damage to the plant. So some of the broad beans aren't even going to have beans because I somehow managed to damage the flowers. And I was going to pull them up this morning, and I thought I'll put them on the compost. That would be great. And then I can get some more seedlings planted in where they are. And as I was really looking at them, they're absolutely covered in ladybird larvae. So I don't want to take them down because that's obviously like their habitat now. So I'm going to just have to leave them. The Orlia are flowering beautifully, and every time I grow them, I say, I can't believe I haven't done more of these. You don't get many in a packet, and they're not cheap. But oh my goodness, I could do with about 100 times more than what I've got because they're just so beautiful. And the weeds have done fantastically. I can't tell you the height, the stunning beauty, the gorgeousness of all the weeds. I just got back and thought, God, I wonder if there's a market for like weeds or something, because they just love it here. So I have been doing a bit of weeding and adding that to the compost bin. And turns out there's a bit of bindweed in areas where I didn't know there was bindweed, which was quite interesting. Some of it, I think, started off and I saw it and thought, oh, I wonder if your beans, because I grew a lot of beans last year. I haven't bothered this year because I don't even really like beans. I like the French beans, but not runner beans or anything. Anyway, I grow them every year because it's just sort of something you do. And this year I thought, no, I'm not growing anything that I don't completely love because there's not enough space. So I've seen like these little seedlings come up and thought, oh, I wonder if you're a bean. I'll just leave you and I can just give the vegetables to somebody else. Anyway, you come back off holiday and you realize, oh no, actually that's bindweed. Luckily, it all goes twining up other stuff, so it's quite easy to track it down and then dispose of it. I was expecting some losses actually in the plot as a whole, and I'm actually pleased to say I haven't lost anything, which I do think is a miracle because the site didn't get watered while I was away. There was somebody that I could have asked to do it, and I thought, look at the forecast. I think we'll be okay. So everybody made it through the week with no watering whatsoever, which I think is pretty awesome. The trouble is, they're sort of surviving. They're not really growing as fast as I would like them to. And when we get to part 2 of the podcast, when I talk about the visit that I made in Cornwall to a Cornish flower grower, and when I tell you what level everything at her place was, I practically felt like giving up. But anyway, I won't give you any plot spoilers for that. So, what's nearly ready? I have got calendulas nearly ready. And these are like the pot marigold, but I bought a kind of apricotty, corally kind of colour. They got pinched out before I left. They've now branched out really nicely and they're starting to flower, but the stems are really short. And this is the first time that I've grown calendula, and I need to do a little bit of research and just check that I haven't bought something daft. I'm sure I wouldn't have done because I was looking at all of the stem lengths before I bought everything to make sure that it was all going to be functional. Maybe these guys are just short because they haven't had enough water, but they seem to be doing absolutely fine. And thank goodness the plant spacings for them are perfect. So it's one of these things where you really need to hold your nerve because when everything went in and it was so tiny and the spacings just looked ridiculous, and I thought this is not right. So I sort of stuck to my guns, but I was sort of edging things to the shorter gap end of what I thought I should plant them at. And it turns out, as they've all filled out, they are the right spacing. So that is something that I need to remember next year because part of me wants to just go up and plant everything else that I've got in trays super, super close together because I just think, oh God. But actually, need to hold my nerve on this one and just stick to what is on the borderline of acceptable. The eryngiums are just about to flower, so they've all got the sort of the flower heads on them, those spiky thistle-like balls, but they haven't gone blue yet. And what else? The Achillea is about to flower. The little grass, the Breeza maxima, they've just put their little I don't know what you call them. I'm going to call them dangly bits, but you know what I mean. They've got lots of little dangly bits, and they're lovely. Again, they're incredibly short, and I've seen them in Cornwall, and they were like 3 foot tall. And I said to the flower grower, "How on earth have you done that?" And she's just like, "Oh, well, that's how they are this year." She did say they were shorter last year, so I don't know. Maybe the fact again, lack of water. And the seedlings, all my seedlings that are still in trays, and there is a lot of them. So all the straw flowers, the helichrysum, they have not gone out at all. And there's amaranthus to go out, and oh gosh, I can't remember everything. There's more nigella to go out, but it might be too late for that. Anyway, I had somebody come and water them. One of my neighbours came in, and bless him, he came in twice a day on a couple of days because things were still in the greenhouse. Oh yeah, hundreds of zinnias, hundreds of zinnias. So he came in, and that's been amazing. So he's a grower as well. He knows what he's doing. So he did exactly the right thing with everything. So I'm enormously grateful for that because everything would definitely have died. And I'm thinking about keeping the zinnias that are still at my house actually in my greenhouse because they're heat loving plants. I think they're from South America and or South Africa, and they love the heat. And the ones that have gone up to the plot just hate it. So a couple more of them have died, and they are really struggling. I cannot work out if they're in the wrong place or what. They're right next to the sweet peas, so they're they're having the duck water thrown on them twice a day. And I was digging around, doing some weeding around them, and the soil seems to be moist. So it is, but whatever it is, it's not the right location for them. So I thought, well, hedge my bets, keep the ones that I've got here in trays. I'm going to plant them up in my greenhouse. At least I can keep them super well watered and see if I can salvage them. Because one of them on the plot has already flowered, and these are tiny little plants, and they should be about, I don't know, at least 2.5 feet tall before they start doing anything. So maybe it's a lack of water, too much heat. I just don't know. Anyway, the flower that's come out is horrid. Horrid, 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 disgusting, nasty, plastic kind of pink colour. And I have bought these sort of beautiful apricot corally, lovely colours. So I was a bit horrified when I saw that yesterday. I don't know, maybe it's a rogue one or what, I don't know, but I would be embarrassed to sell it. It was so disgusting. The sweet peas are a bit of a mixed bag. So, as you know, if you are a regular listener, I am growing my sweet peas up the Harris fence panels. And the other side of the plot from those panels is where the ducks live. And so I put up some plastic sheets, not like stiff plastic that you'd use on a porch roof or something, to protect the sweet peas so that the ducks wouldn't eat them. And that has been foolproof. So 2/3 of the sweet pea row is wonderful, fantastic growth. They're over 3 feet tall. Nobody's flowering, but you can tell that they're thinking about it. And then the far left hand side of the sweet peas, they've all been topped, completely munched by the ducks. And it turns out the ducks have been hopping up onto a piece of wood that's their side and just helping themselves to the sweet peas. And I didn't actually think they could get on the block of wood. Well, clearly they can. So it will be an interesting experiment to see what happens with the 1/4 of my sweet peas that have now all been pinched out in an unplanned fashion and a slightly destructive fashion. But anyway, the ducks have basically pinched them out for me versus the other 3/4 which have not been pinched out. So we'll see what happens. And a very quick hen update for those of you who follow all the chicken stories. So Goose had a week in isolation because of her bum, but she has now rejoined the flock. Mo had a week in isolation because she's a cannibal and we think she'd eaten Mo's bum. She's now back with the flock because it turns out that while I was away, my chicken sitter, yes, I had a chicken sitter, don't ask, cost me an arm and a leg. And there's a sad part to this story anyway. The chicken sitter said that she'd seen one of the other hens pulling the feathers out. So I don't know that it is Mo anymore. And I came back to find uh, four broody hens. So Florence and Danny and Piggy were broody before I went away. And I came back and Dove has now gone broody as well. So those girls have had to go in a different enclosure to try and stop them being broody because it's just not what is required at all. And then very sadly, one of my ducks died yesterday. So she was poorly. The chicken sitter pointed it out to me that she wasn't quite right. And I came back and put her in isolation, did some treatment on her, and very sadly, she passed away yesterday and incredibly quickly as well. So I'm guessing she was poorly for a while and perhaps it just didn't get spotted. So you can imagine the guilt I feel when I say don't ever go away in June because it's busy with all the flowers. It's like it's so difficult going away when you've got livestock because I think about them 24/7 and things go wrong, accidents happen. I mean, accidents happen when I'm around. Don't I'm not like the perfect chicken keeper and we don't have any disasters. If you're a regular listener, you'll know that things happen, they have accidents, they have fights that they're little creatures, they go around and duff each other up sometimes, but um there's normally a longer period when they're ill, so I don't know what happened to Brownie, and I'm devastated about that, and riddled with guilt that I wasn't here, that it didn't get spotted. um okay, I am just back from the plot. So I recorded that first half of the podcast, first part, earlier this evening, and I've just got in. So I've been planting out scabious, statice, and amaranthus, and also doing some staking on batch 3 of the cornflowers, who I thought were doing fine. And on closer inspection, there's some wobbles going on. So I thought I'd go and sort that out. And just before I started recording this, I thought I will look up the things that I mentioned in the first section, which I should probably clarify before I go on. So the calendula sherbet fizz variety that I have should be apparently 18 inches tall. So I'm going to go back and measure them tomorrow, because I don't think those plants are 18 inches tall, but could be because I haven't given them enough water. But that's what they should be. So at least I haven't exactly ordered the wrong thing. Zinnias come from Mexico and southwestern USA. So sorted that out. And also, sweet pea plants are not toxic, but the seeds are. So just in case you were thinking maybe the duck ate loads of sweet pea seeds and that's why she's got sick, none of the sweet peas have any seeds. They haven't even got flowers. Like, they're thinking about it, but they don't have flowers yet. The plant itself is not toxic, and nobody else is sick. She also had an injury in her chest, which I wasn't going to go into all the details about that. But suffice to say, she didn't get sick from eating all of those sweet peas. Right, I think I've probably been talking long enough for today. So what I'm going to do is part 2, which is where I'm going to talk about my visit in Cornwall to a cut flower grower. And this is so exciting. I really hope you'll come back and join me on Friday to hear about this. I went to meet a wonderful lady called Rowena, who runs Greys and Green cut flowers near Boscastle. And she was a wonderful lady. So I'll tell you the story about how I met her, how she does her plant spacings, when she puts things out, how she supports everything, what she had flowering last week when I visited and what heights they were, how she starts everything off, when she puts things out, her setup, where she sells to, what she uses for foliage, all the challenges she's faced, and her watering system. She was an incredibly wonderful lady, very generous with her time. I don't know her. I'd never met her before. I found her on the Flowers from the Farm website, and she was kind enough to give me an hour of her time, and it was absolutely invaluable. And that's the wonderful thing about cut flower growers. So far, I've been blown away by how kind and generous everybody is with their time and their advice, and I'm really pleased that she's happy for me to share what she showed me. So please do join me on Friday for all of that. And I'm also going to be talking about selecting tulips for 2026. Yes, it's coming. See you Friday.